How your money story keeps you stuck. I'm forced to choose between love and money. I am destined to struggle no matter how hard I work. I am always on the outside of abundance. I'm shut out from wealth. I can see it, but it's always in my periphery. I can never really have it. I am not worthy of having money. So I grew up in a home that was financially secure, but emotionally bankrupt. We had beautiful homes, but not beautiful words. We had luxurious vacations, but no lasting warmth. As a young person, I was utterly confused and divided about money. I didn't have the name for what I was feeling, but I knew that something was off. Money was synonymous for me with three things: power, posturing, performance. When I was 15 years old, I left home with absolutely no financial understanding about how to deal with money in this world. I can vividly remember crying in the aisle of a Big V drugstore over the cost of toothpaste because I had absolutely no idea that toothpaste cost that much. Fast forward, years later, I went on to university. I aimed to become a teacher. I needed 250 volunteer hours in a classroom, as well as straight A's to get into teacher's college. And I had no family home to go home to throughout the year or even in the summer. OSAP and part-time jobs were my only means of financial survival. My friends would often buy me food when I didn't have enough money for food. I was blessed in that way. But something had taken a hold of me. And that thing was my money story. You see, as a young person, I had a lot of shame about how much we had on the outside, but how little I knew we had on the inside. That script had flipped for me because as I grew, I had so little on the outside. And I was building myself in an interior way, but there were times when I was struggling month to month as to how to survive. My money story was birthed from a place of paradox. A youth filled with financial access, but as I grew, a youth and a young adulthood where that excess vanished. I had kind of an anomalous story. Usually in popular culture, we see the story of, rags to riches, very much. My money story was to me that I wasn't worth having the kind of money that I was born into. I was always just sort of on the outside of it. So the real problem, though, was not the number in my bank account. The real problem was what was in my mind, and that was my money story. So this talk isn't about me, though. It's about you guys. Every single one of you have a money story of your own in some way. So what is a money story? There's no single originator of the term money story. It is a term that is often used in coaching. Think psychology meets personal finance. It started to gain traction in the 2010s with personal financial blogs, as well as wellness coaching. Klons et al. In 2011 are the first academic sources, one of the first academic sources noted as talking about money story and saying that everybody has their own particular money story. Tony Robbins, peak performance coach, talks about money story being something that is underlined by a set of beliefs and emotions that drive the way you handle your finances. He says that often there is an unconscious story that drives the way that each of us live our financial lives that even impacts the opportunities that we'll go for. Who said it first is less important than the fact that it resonates across disciplines and it resonates across generations. So some examples of a scarcity fear-based money story might be, I'm bad with money. If I have money, I will lose love. Money is the root of all evil. Tony also states that one of the strongest forces in the human psyche is the need to keep the identity that we construct for ourselves consistent. How does that connect to a money story? Well, if you think I lose money as fast as I get it, I'm someone who struggles with money, those realities might actually be driven to you because you've taken in that identity within yourself. An empowering money story is rooted in growth, possibility, and even contribution, what you can give when you have money. So how many of you in this room have a money story of your own? Yeah. Yeah. Would anyone like to be brave enough to share? You don't have to. That's okay. That's okay. So I'd like you to ask yourself, what is your money story? What is it costing you? Where did it come from? And what will it take to change it? Now, I'd like to preface this by saying not everybody has a money story that needs changing. I struggled with the topic of this speech for that reason. I actually spoke to a friend of mine who has done amazing things in her life financially. And I said, this doesn't fit for everybody. But what does fit for everybody is there is a psychology of money. And it is critical to your financial life to take a look at what that psychology is. So our money stories are not isolated narratives that exist in silos. Our money stories are echoes of shifts and changes in Canada's financial landscape. What I want to do today is take a look at what each generation is facing financially in 2025. Because we all have different problems and challenges we're facing financially, but one thing is true, every generation seems to have some collective problems together, some very precise problems. So Gen Z, the biggest challenge that Generation Z is facing is finding work. There's more gig work for Gen Z than for any other generation right now. But what does that mean? That also means that they don't have the employer benefits long enjoyed by other generations from working so long at one particular place. Housing affordability, early financial fragility. How does that set up an entire generation whose financial foundation has been so shaky? What happens later? So the collective costs to relationships, 53% of Gen Z say that their money worries have impacted their relationships. 63% of Gen Z say that financial worries have impacted their mental health. How does that show up? Sleep issues and anxiety. What might their possible money story be? I'm living paycheck to paycheck. Next, fast forward to millennials. One of the biggest challenges facing millennials is housing affordability and the cost of a mortgage. Some are delaying having families, delaying home purchases. There's competing pressure because as the millennials grow, some of them now are in a place where they have to pay back their student loans. Some are also taking care of children and in some cases, even aging parents. So the possible money story for millennials might be, I can't get ahead no matter what I do. Gen X. Gen X is facing simultaneous pressures all over the map. So Generation X right now is taking care of children while they're taking care of aging parents, while they're thinking about retirement, while they're coming back from a pandemic. They're in a very odd space where they're young enough that they cannot collect a public pension, but they're old enough that they don't jump back from financial setbacks so fast anymore. So the cost to relationships for Gen X, 47% say that money concerns have impacted their relationships. 54% say that they've impacted their mental health. The money story for Gen X could be, I'm constantly catching up. Baby boomers. Baby boomers are an interesting one. And the data for this is all Canadian-based. And I found that the baby boomers really stuck out as different when I looked at the generational struggles. So many baby boomers now are either completely retired or thinking about retiring. And many of them have indeed set themselves up for retirement. But there's a very big contrast between those who have and those who have not. While some baby boomers experience asset wealth, others can't retire. Others can't downsize. They're in a really precarious position. And furthermore, their relationships are often impacted by the financial role that they're playing in their families. So baby boomers might be taking care of adult children. They might be taking care of grandchildren. And those financial decisions that they have to make could very well impact the relational health in their families. The cost to mental health, some have anxiety about out-of-pocket cost for healthcare or how long the savings they have will actually last. Their money story could be one of two things. I planned for retirement and I'm good, or the margin that I have is running out. It depends what situation they're in. So I want you to know one thing, and it's that you are never, ever dead in the water financially, ever. There are people that we associate with money. They're synonymous with money. We hear their names and we think, okay, they've always done well. They're financial gurus. I'm going to tell you 3 stories of people that dealt with betrayal, money mismanagement, and theft to show you that no matter what, you can come back from financial setbacks through financial education, resilience, and self-awareness, and taking a very, very honest look at where you're at financially. So the first one is Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins, as I mentioned before, peak performance coach, a huge name in this world. But Tony Robbins once entered a business partnership that lost him $125 million. He paired with someone that told him he had a close tie to the person that owned Amway, and that he also had his own high net worth. Those things weren't true. When it came down to it, Tony was on the hook for $125 million. How did he handle this? He decided that he would not let this setback define his financial reality, but he understood, I need to vet my business partners a lot better. Every business decision, every partner decision he made from that point was really, really well vetted. He developed stricter standards. He used the loss as schooling, and he studied what went wrong. The main thing that he did was take ownership of the situation. Next, we have Susie Orman. So Susie Orman was once a waitress earning $400 a month. She asked her friends to help her invest. She did. She lost all the money. Someone at Merrill Lynch, a broker at Merrill Lynch, actually mismanaged her money. So at a time when she didn't have much, she lost everything and what her friends had given her. Instead of succumbing to despair, she used this as an opportunity to educate herself financially. She actually trained herself at that point in financial services. She became a stockbroker herself. That thing that she went through, that experience, was actually the catalyst for a lot of the financial education she teaches to other people. She's been a New York Times bestseller. She's had her own television show. She is known as someone that is talking to people and showing them about financial empowerment in some very, very real ways. She later sued Merrill Lynch for mishandling her investments, but she never let that situation define her. Mark Cuban, lastly, someone who we know from Shark Tank. You hear Mark Cuban and you think, wow, right? Maybe what you don't know is when Mark Cuban was just starting out, he had a secretary that stole $82,000 from his business bank account. So Mark did not use this as an opportunity to stop his entrepreneurial journey. He actually used it as a chance to say, okay, what business practices do I have to institute to be better at what I do? Even though we see him today as a financial giant, at this time, the money that she stole from him was almost everything he had. He was just starting out. By 1999, Mark sold his company, broadcast.com, for $5.7 billion. He emphasized that such experiences are part of the entrepreneurial process. So your money story is never final. Why? And I actually have handouts for you guys about these aspects, but I'll speak very, very quickly to them. There's visualization. If you can actually get in a visualization of what it is you want to see yourself doing, what it is you want to see yourself having, the state you would like to see yourself being in, That's a very powerful way to change your reality. Neuroscience, one of the biggest gifts to us is neuroplasticity. We can change our brains. Decision making. So Tony Robbins talks again about identity, right? When we assign an identity to ourselves, we have this need to continue to fulfill it, maybe even if it's not fulfilling us. But what if we decided to shift our identities? And we can do that in any moment and follow it up with consistency. What if you went from saying, I'm someone who struggles financially, to I'm building more and more wealth every single day, etc. And lastly, remember the icons who have faltered. Remember the stories that those people that you see there who are giants in the financial world were not always so. They themselves went through so many different things, right? So in 2025, my money story is the following. I deserve wealth in every area of my life. Prosperity belongs to me. I am love and prosperity combined. I do not have to choose between either of them. I am possibility. I am designed to create and multiply wealth with purpose and with the service of others. So every one of us has a story. Every single one of us. My question to you is, are you going to allow life to create that story for you? Or are you going to consciously, intentionally, powerfully, and purposely create it for yourself? It's up to you. Thank you.
Beautiful. Amazing.
That's us. You already heard and seen. Dating at misery, swipe a person, diluting, soul sucking. Yeah. Do you guys have any questions at all? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think the psychology is really important. My money story used to be the total opposite. I used to be very bad beliefs, like paycheck to paycheck. That was literally my money story. And I didn't think I could do anything to change it. I just thought it was like running around in a hamster wheel, and it was just like, okay, when am I going to get off, or like, how do I get by? I had to flip the switch in my head and say that like money's everywhere, money's abundant, there's opportunities that are everywhere, they're coming to me. And when you flip that mindset, things start to open up. Things start to happen in your life when you flip it. If you're like, I am this, you're going to stay like that. Your belief systems are going to dictate your reality. So that was huge. That was huge for me.
It's hard, right? Because the brain tries to keep you safe. And so you have to go against your own neurology. You know, and then the more that you hear about times being so hard and this and that, but the reality is that people do make money, right? But a lot of it comes from a willingness to, I think, if we're talking entrepreneurially anyways, listen to the market. Like the market speaks. So if you listen to, you know, what's happening and take it as data. If something didn't go well, it's not a personal thing, it's data. Okay, how do you shift that for next time, right? And not take those losses, so to speak, as personal assignments. And say, okay, what am I going to change? And understand that, you know, literally your brain is built to keep you safe. So how can you get outside of that and create the reality that you want? That's why, so we have a handout for you. So like meditation is so powerful because it actually puts you in a place of possibility. Visualization is so powerful. Even exercise is so powerful because you're moving left brain, right brain, left brain, right brain when you're walking. There's so many things that we can do, right? But I was saying to Rachel before we started that I've never seen the world in the financial state that it's in right now. In my life, I've never seen it. And I think part of the struggle is to tune out the doomsday messages that we're being sent and that we hear, you know. I think especially for young people just starting out, that must be very, very daunting.
Well, it's like keeping up with the Joneses thing. Everybody's going to buy the next new thing. The iPhone 17 came out. What do they do to it? They changed the camera again? Do we need another $1,000 iPhone? Do we really need it?
Right? I heard this thing the other day, and it was like, when we attune to what is on social media to decide what's valuable in our lives, imagine that you're attuning to somebody sitting in an office in Silicon Valley, deciding about an algorithm. Like if you actually think about that, that's crazy. That like someone who created algorithms and created systems in Silicon is like having any kind of say about how you feel about what's going on in your life. Like if you break that down, that's actually crazy. So, and you know, I feel so much for every generation, but especially for Gen Z and millennials that are just starting right now when this is all starting. I think it's got to be so challenging, you know? Yeah.
So in terms of changing your mindset about
Yeah.
money, what do you recommend the most? Like affirmations, visualization, hypnotherapy?
I'd recommend, so like, let's back it up to the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
I think everyone's different, right? Like, let's say you don't exercise ever.
Mm-hmm.
Movement is so powerful to even shift your cells, to shift, like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's that. Let's say that you don't meditate. Meditation can actually put you in like a soul space where like all of Joe Dispenza's work, for example, right? There's so much change that can happen when we meditate. I've found visualization really, really powerful for when I'm feeling like in a place of fear, to visualize myself where I want to be, the environments that you put yourself in, because whatever isn't normal in your life becomes normal after a while. Like let's say you'd like to go into trading. Right now you're just starting, that's a little bit foreign to you. Fast forward, imagine you were with traders every single working day for 10 years. You'd come in here, you'd be like, trading is digital. Like you would be running the show about trading, right? But that's my point. Like whatever environment you place yourself in will become normal to you after a while. That's why we have to be so careful with who we surround ourselves with and in what environment, right?
100%.
You take on the belief systems of the people
Yeah.
around you.
Yeah.
So that's why it's so important. Why we talked about your circle and it being really, really important. So like yourself, like you're looking to meet people that are in the trading realm, like that's absolutely what you need to do. And anybody that says like they're trying to hold you back, you need to step into those areas and you need to form that new group of friends. That's going to help you create the belief systems and the lifestyle.
Yeah.
That's what I'm
Because you take on whatever their beliefs, whatever they're talking about. If they're good energy and they're like, we made this, your brain's going to be like, well, why can't I make that?
That's
Yeah.
normal.
Yeah, you got to create your new normal inside your
Yeah.
head of like, this is my new life, this is my new reality.
Yeah.
Then you step into it.
Yeah. Even the food that we eat, right? That can impact the way that we feel the daily. And then, you know, for me, I know there's this quote and it says, wherever you go, there you are. But I've never found that to be true. Like I've lived in a lot of different countries in my life and I've had a lot of varying financial expenses in accordance with that. So it's like, you know, in the middle of winter, if I'm in warmth in Thailand, where food is readily available on the street and extremely cheap, am I feeling the same strain as if I'm on the 401, like going to, right? Like I'm not. And so then that's been my experience. That's what's worked for me as well. Placing myself in environments that I feel support what's the most important thing to me and just being willing to jump because you don't know what a place is like until you've gone there. But wouldn't it be interesting to see if there was a different financial structure in a different country that worked for you?
Yeah.
Right? And so I've done that. And that's really helped me have perspective financially because, you know, I know that there's different costs in different places and there's also different things. And I'm not someone that deals with the winter very well at all, like at all. So, you know, like that's just right. Which is a core reason why I left teaching initially is because it wasn't even, you know, there were many things in the education system that didn't sit well with me, but it was also that I cannot be here like 10 months out of the year. I just can't. So I need to find a different way to do it, right? So it's like, I've heard this thing where Jennifer Aniston, the actress, she was like, no matter what you want to change in your life, make the change. Like there's no real reason not to jump except for fear at the end of it all, right? And it's like, I think that that's so true. Like we don't know what's on the other side of it, but if we're willing to figure it out, and maybe you see that that's visualization is not for you or meditation isn't, but at least we've tried. And then you just keep troubleshooting until it makes sense, you know? Yeah.
Those at the highest level, they visualize everything.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Thank you guys. Thank you.